Okay, good afternoon. I guess the room used to be full. If you guys want to move up, feel free. So good afternoon. My name is Daryl. I'm from a company called Liftoff. How many of you have heard of Liftoff? Oh, great. Thank you. At least I'm not alone. But with me today, I have my colleague Silesh. So he'll be joining with me. So please feel free to approach both of us after the presentation if you have any questions. So today I'm going to be talking about, I heard the previous presenter, very interesting content, but today we're switching gears to talk about advertising. So Liftoff is a mobile app marketing and retargeting platform. So I want to kind of explain to you how we do programmatic advertising today, how we can help your apps to scale globally, and what this means for you as a game publisher. A little bit about myself. I currently manage the APAC region for Liftoff, and currently we have offices in various parts of the world. Just a quick overview of our company. So we are a growth acceleration platform. So today, if you have an app, there are multiple things that you can do with Liftoff. So I'm going to start with the products that I represent today and drive most of the revenue of the business, which is our grow. So under grow, we have accelerate, direct, and influence. So some of you might have known that Liftoff and Vungle, we merged at the end of 2021, and now we're collectively called Liftoff. So as a company, our aim is to help mobile marketers to scale globally and create the best value for your users. So with the Accelerate and Direct product, these are our two user acquisition products that we help to drive app installs at scale in over 160 countries. So if today you have an app and you want to reach users simultaneously in US, Brazil, India, Australia, you can do so easily with a one-stop solution like Accelerate and Direct. So these two are our advertising solutions. We also have an influence product, and this influence product is basically our user-generated content. It is a creative studio that allows us to create UGC content with some of the top influencers, which you can then use on different platforms such as your own social media as well as Liftoff campaigns. Right? We have other whole suite of products, including Optimize. So Optimize products include Game Refinery and Creative Studio, which help to support your user acquisition campaigns. So Game Refinery is an app analytics service where you can actually see all the different things that are going on in the games out there. So if you want to know more about a game, you want to know more about how users are motivated, we have a service that can provide you insights about the top games in the market. Of course, lastly, on the right side, we have a monetized product that is powered by our Vungle SDK. And this SDK helps you to do app monetization, which you are probably very familiar with. So if you're running apps with a lot of in-app ads and you want to drive higher monetization, you please look for our monetized team after the presentation. Okay? So that's in a nutshell, everything about the Liftoff product. I want to kind of just touch on today mostly about the Accelerate product. So the Accelerate product is basically Liftoff's DSP. Does anyone of you know what a DSP is? Awesome, more hands now. So DSP stands for Demand Side Platform. Think about it like a one-stop solution to grow your campaigns at scale with just one service. So the Accelerate platform from Liftoff, we currently run hundreds of customers globally. And a little bit more about Liftoff as a company is we're not an Indian-based company. We do have people working with the Indian market, but we're actually from the US, and we have offices mainly in Singapore, China, Korea, US, and Europe. Okay? So what Accelerate product really is, it is a world-leading DSP, and we do mainly on programmatic buying. So programmatic buying is an automated way for you to scale your app campaigns where we connect the demand and supply in an automatic fashion, and everything happens under the hood in milliseconds. You don't actually have to reach out to a particular publisher and say, hey, I want to advertise on your app. Everything is done seamlessly and with state-of-the-art machine learning. Okay? So why would you use a service like Liftoff? Basically for two reasons. One, you want to scale your campaigns and you want to have more users. And secondly, we help you to drive users that bring you the return on ad spend, what we call ROAS on your campaigns. So if you have a game today that you are looking to drive, ROAS of 30% in 7 days, you will find a platform like us, and we will find you the relevant users that suit your performance goals. Okay. So some of the global advertisers that we work with, these are not new names to you and I. Of course, a lot of these advertisers are, leaders in their own field, from social games, casino games, social media apps, as well as some of the Indian advertisers there. You see like MPL, Paytm. So these are some of our top global advertisers. Okay, diving a little bit deeper into the Accelerate product, which is the DSP, and the core of our product is today what we call machine learning. Okay, so maybe I can take you through how the Accelerate product works and how the whole chain of programmatic buying actually works. So if you look at the screen here, so we are on the advertiser side, that's you and I. And on the other side, there are users who are downloading the game. What happens is, today the advertiser wants to reach the user, and you have to go through a few steps. Today you can reach the end user by many ways. You can go up to a guy and say, hey, download my app. Or you can go to a publisher and say, hey, can I buy some advertising space from you? And I put my advertisement there. But you can also go through what we call a more scalable way, which is the programmatic journey. So if you think about it, if an advertiser wants to reach a user at scale using a DSP, what the DSP would do is to connect the advertiser's creative assets and their requirements through ad spaces on what we call different ad exchanges. And ad exchanges, the one in green, are basically a whole conglomerate of multiple publishers added up together. So think about it, instead of finding one by one, you just go to a departmental store and all the shops are there and you can get everything you need. So today, the exchanges that we work with, including Vango Exchange, which is owned by us, AppLovin, DoubleClick, so on and so forth, a lot of names you are familiar with, they cover over 80 to 90% of the top publishers in the market. Meaning to say, we are able to reach majority of the users that you want to target simply through the DSP. Think of it like a tunnel leading to a whole different network of advertising spaces and users. So from the exchange, each exchange can reach the user, and there are multiple publishers in each exchange, all connected through the SDK. So that's our monetized solution. And ultimately, when we display an ad, this connects with the end user, the user clicks the ad, and they download your app. So this essentially is the user programmatic journey. Okay? All right. So how does programmatic buying actually fit into your media buying strategy today? Actually, when we think about the ecosystem, and this is how most of the top advertisers in the world look at and segregate their budgets and buying strategy. On one hand, you have your search, which is dominated by Google today. And then you have your social platforms, right? Your Meta, your Snapchat, your TikToks. And these represent what we call self-attributing networks, where they have their own ecosystem of users, and they have their own suite of services that reach out to users on those platforms. However, at the same time, outside of Google and social, there are 4 million over other apps in the world where you and I, users, use every day. Think about you checking the weather or checking what time the bus is coming, or even some of the games that you play. Maybe indie games, hyper-casual games, and all these apps, they've integrated with programmatic today. So if you want to reach the user journey, you have to ensure that your buying or media acquisition strategy is able to touch users at different touch points. Okay? And that's where we come in. So we are bidding across 20 over different exchanges, like I mentioned, covering 80 or 90% of all the users. And we use optimization techniques to help you maximize revenue. So for Liftoff, Accelerate, this is a managed service. So if you're interested to run campaigns but you don't know how, we have a team that is here to help you and assist you. Okay? And last of all, everything about our platform is driven by data. So you have the full access of data. we are connected to mobile marketing partners such as AppsFlyer or Adjust. Everything is transparent, and we guarantee that there's nothing under the hood that you're not seeing. Okay, so at the core of our technology is machine learning, and we use machine learning to really differentiate ourselves from the competition. And this is basically the secret sauce that helps us to get the performance that you want. So I'm going to flash a couple of numbers here. It's not going to mean anything, but what you want to remember is that machine learning determines what is different between one platform and the other. And the good news about Liftoff, and something that we've shared with the market very recently, is that we are moving our entire platform to a next generation deep neural nets models. And this is going to help us to increase our compute power. It's going to help us increase the number of variables that we can understand from a user. When we serve an ad, we can know what is the best price to bid for a user, and ultimately the end goal is to improve the performance of your advertisement campaign. So this is the brain that drives it all, but let's look at how you actually run a campaign with Liftoff. Okay. So there are 3 types of campaigns, or rather 2 main types. The third one is a hybrid. 2 main types of campaigns that you can run. The first is user acquisition. If you have an app today and you want to drive 1 million downloads, you have to use platforms that can help you to reach this at scale with the least amount of effort. So that's where UA comes in. So some of the things we optimize for example, TikTok is one of our customers. We help them to drive a 7-day retention or a sign up. So you can do different things. It ultimately depends on your client's goals. It could be an install, it could be a registration, it could be a first-time deposit, it could even be a purchase, or it could be how many ads you want the users to watch in a 24-hour window. So you determine the goals, we deliver them, and find the users that best suit your requirements. The next one, after you've accumulated a bunch of users, it's natural that users leave the app and never come back. What is called, they churn after a while. And re-engagement are used by some of the top advertisers today to bring back users to their app whenever there's new events or new promotions going on. This is a strategy that is, usually advertisers use about 10 to 20% of their budgets. It's very common in e-commerce or with games that have been around for more than 3 to 4 years, and they want to kind of recycle and refresh that kind of users that they have because they pay good money for that, so why not? So the combination of a UA plus RE strategy is extremely beneficial because if you acquire the users on one platform, you have the historical data to understand why they came in the first place. And then re-engaging them with different creatives, with different concepts, enables them to come back to the platform and continue to add to your bottom line. So the UA plus RE strategy is something that the Accelerate product offers you today. And if you're interested, we can talk a little bit more about this in the Q&A. Okay. So as I mentioned, there are 2 main campaigns that we run on the Accelerate UA side. One is the CPI campaign. So CPI is simply the cost per install, where you determine how much you want to pay for a user, and we go and find which publishers can offer you this price. So if you're saying that your CPI is going to be 50 cents, then we will try to manage the bids in order to find you users that fall within this price bracket. Of course, there are a lot of things that can affect the CPI, and I can talk about it later. And of course, our campaigns then go on to collect events from your app. So when users download your app, they do multiple actions, such as they reach a certain level event in your game, or they add to cart. These are signals that tell us how engaged these users are. So if you want to find users that are optimized for subscription, we will then look at all the subscription users on your app, and we will find similar users using our machine learning models in the ecosystem. So this is essentially what you're paying for, the down funnel optimization techniques that the product offers. Okay. And last of all, this is the most common end goal for all the games that run with us, which is ROAS optimization. So ROAS can come in many forms. It can come in IAP, it can come in IAA. It could come, nowadays, hybrid monetization is extremely popular, where there's a mixture of purchases and also in-app monetization. And we have another product called LTV, which I'll talk about later. So Liftoff offers the state-of-the-art ROAS optimization, where we're able to differentiate users who simply want to install and users that want to pay. Okay? So let me give you an example here. So the difference between a CPA and a ROAS optimization is basically in the ARPU value. And ARPU stands for average revenue per user. So if you and I are players in the game today, and I made a purchase, you made a purchase, but you made a purchase that's 10 times more than me. So even though your revenue count is only 1, you achieved much more revenue than the person who only purchased 3 times, but only drove $3 in revenue. So from a advertising perspective, or rather from an advertiser perspective, you would want to go for the first user, correct? Rather than a second user. Or rather, you would be willing to pay more for the first user because this guy is more valuable. And that's exactly what we want. Discretionary pricing for users who have higher value versus medium versus low value. So with the ROAS product, we're taking into account not only the frequency of purchase, but the value of your purchase. And then we are optimizing the bids that we go and acquire this user. So all this happens in fractions of a millisecond when we analyze your data, and then we go out into the market and find those users for you. So for gaming, this is extremely essential. Okay. The last one is a little bit more complex. This LTV Optimize is a very new product that we launched recently. Google has had it for a while, and I think we're the only DSP in the market that offers this. This is looking at long term. So today, when you look at a game metrics, you would normally look at very early metrics, such as your day 7 retention or your day 7 ROAS. But very often, user behavior in the early stage does not represent what they will do 50 days or 200 days down the road. Things can change. So with LTV Optimize, what we're looking to do is to accurately understand the LTV value for a user that comes in to your app. So with our top customers today, they are able to pass us LTV scores for every user to let us know how much will this user be worth down the road. So if you're optimizing for a 365-day LTV, meaning to say your game needs to turn profitable in 365 days, when you acquire a user, you would pass us a value that indicates how much this user is worth down the road. And this is based on the different actions he's done in the app. And with these scores, we can more accurately then go for users which are valuable to you. So this is a very extremely advanced type of optimization that we are pushing out in the market, but we've seen a lot of success when we look at long-term performance. All right, so something a little bit more visual. That was quite a lot of talk about technology and machine learning, but let's move gears to creative. As you know, creative is the backbone of advertising, and it determines how users first engage with your company. Okay? So with Liftoff, as an advertising platform, we also have to have an extremely strong creative suite to engage the users. As good as our machine learning is, if our creative product or our creative engagement is poor, this will affect the performance of your campaign. So what's important, right? One is we need to match the right audience. So the right audience, meaning to say, if you're advertising Candy Crush, we need to know who wants to play Candy Crush, right? If we advertise it to a bunch of men, they might not be as interested because most of the users on Candy Crush are women, right? So that's a very simple example, but of course there are multiple variables. Next, we also need to test concepts to understand what type of users would like to click what type of concepts. And last of all, test and iterate the formats and the details within the app to make it as high performance as possible. So let's take a look at what the Accelerate or Liftoff product offers. So there are kind of 5 pillars here, and in general, we have strategy and we have production. So strategy is whereby we sit down with you and we analyze how are your creatives working for your app. Let's look at different performance metrics and let's understand, is this on par with some of your top competitors in the market? Things like your click-through rate, things like your install to impression rate. So all these matter because they give you a sign if your creatives are doing what they need to do. And then secondly, we have a production team. So our production team takes the insights that our strategists have discussed with you into action. So we would do things like, a playable for you, right? We put a playable at the end card for you. So when users finish watching the video, they can then play with the Angry Birds or the Match 3. So those are things that we can actually do it for you, and this is all complementary part of our advertising service. So the strategy plus production piece is the core components of our support to help you drive performance. Okay. Of course, we have a team that supports you. We are very data-driven. We constantly work with the top advertisers in today's market in every category. So we are able to see, what others are doing, and we adopt the best practices for your creative ads today. Okay, let's look at a few creative types, right? I'm sure many of you must have seen this. So some of the ad formats that we support, of course, include video, or we call VAST, playables, which I mentioned. So this is a Toy Blast. I'm sure some of you might have played it. So we can create this kind of playables for you just by some raw materials that you provide from your design team. And then interactive. So this is like a dating app. We can say, what do you feel like? Gaming or chilling, So we do a lot of this for our social and gaming apps, and this is one of the highest conversions that we drive. Okay. Some other formats, very good for companies who want to do monetization. Rewarded video is a kind of format that we support as well, and also interstitial. So these are more of like ads that fill up the entire space of the mobile ads, similar to a video, but then they are more like full screen ads placed between content in between different posts. So there's no rewards attached. Usually the CPMs are lower, but they are just as engaging as well. Okay, so a lot of the networks that you probably work with today focus around video. However, there are much more users today, especially in India, where not every app is supporting the VAS or rewarded video. There are also other formats like banners or MREC or native, which are kind of, they load faster, they're smaller in size, they're adaptable to the screens, and they also can deliver your message. So we have a team today that actually helps you to create these if you don't have a production team. Okay, and this also drives pretty high conversions depending on the type of app you run. Okay. Lastly, I want to kind of talk about two supporting products that we have. One is the Game Refinery. This is kind of like a software as a service. And if you guys know products like Data AI or Sensor Tower, they provide kind of in-depth understanding into the app itself. But the only difference is we are able to analyze what kind of users like to play your game. For example, the different motivations behind that. What are some of the events that go on in certain apps that make it so successful? What are some of the monetization models within the app? We have a team that actually physically breaks down the app for you and analyzes what makes it so successful and what makes it so popular. So you're able to see how you can model some of your in-app gameplay or different designs or different kind of offerings in your app that would make your game successful. So that is Game Refinery. For influence, this is more of our UGC creation, where we get our network of influencers, mainly based in English-speaking markets like UK and US, to create user-generated content. And we use this content to then plug it back into our advertising solutions. So you might have seen this type of apps when you're playing games, when someone goes and say, hey, have you tried this app? That kind of thing. So that's what influence does. We do it at a very, very low cost, and we do it very low cost and at scale. So we take the production work out of your hands. Okay. And lastly, I want to kind of touch on a topic which I feel is has been around for a while, but it's good to kind of put a pin on this, given that advertising it's also very sensitive. We want to be running on high quality users. So fraud is a topic that's really top of our advertisers' mind. So in 2023, you know, this year, people are not willing, but they unknowingly lose $84 billion. That's absurd, right? Think of what I can do with the money. And then how we are tackling this problem today is that we have different layers of protection because today fraudsters are extremely intelligent, right? They can get through, whatever fraud prevention tool you have, and there is, to be honest, no 100% foolproof solution in today's market. Anyone telling you so, they might be lying. But what we do is we try our best to add several layers of protection so that the users you acquire at the end of the day are real users and are users with intent. So for Liftoff, we have the partnerships with the exchanges that I've mentioned, and those partnerships has inherently a layer of protection and kind of like a filtering when it comes in. So about 16% of the ad impressions that we see, we already filter it out. This is after the exchange layer. So this is like the second layer that I'm talking about. We block things like accidental clicks. We understand if users are really trying to click your ad, or if they might have misclicked it, and we track that based on the number of times they click within a certain window, where they click on the ad, things like that. Okay. We also have click signing. So click signing is a proprietary agreement between Liftoff and the mobile measurement partners to ensure that when you click an ad, a signature is passed back to us in the ad request. And this signature will mean that this is legitimate. So we are able to kind of have an encryption to make sure that this is a legitimate click coming from a legitimate user. And lastly, Liftoff also has our own proprietary anti-fraud suite that we weed out pre- and post-bid fraud requests from the ad impression. Okay. So these are some of the, signs that we look out for, right? For example, we block out today about 16%, about 9% of them, highly suspicious. We see like multiple requests coming in from the same publisher on the same day, like millions of them. It's quite impossible. And then we see some of these engagements don't lead to performance. We would then go on and block these publishers out of the market. Okay? Some of them have anonymous IPs. They don't pass back the full data. So we have a set of rules that we use to weed out what we think is suspicious traffic. And then last of all, of course, non-standard sizes, invalid type of bid requests, we automatically do not bid on these to ensure that we are only trying to bid on high quality bid requests. Okay? So I'm going to leave you with this. So you can think about what we do as a service is not just to drive and install. What we want to do is to help you drive what we call down funnel events or down funnel outcomes for you and your app. Because today we don't want to just drive or install. We want users who actually have intent to play a game and perform certain actions, such as watch an ad or drive a purchase. Okay? And with that, I will end my presentation and open up the floor for a Q&A. Thank you. Hey, and by the way, we have some goodies for those who ask questions. So feel free to come on up and get one.
We are not out of soft launch. So when do you suggest that we should start with the ad network like Liftoff? So what would you do?
Great question. So today, most of our customers use us when their apps have finished a soft launch. Means they already know the initial metrics in their game. They have a stable retention rate. They know the predicted lifetime value of a user, and is at a time where they're starting to scale up. They want to drive users maybe in one country first. So that's a good time to start using the Liftoff product. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, Daryl. Great talk. My question to you is out of experience. So last year we tried some of the DSP platforms, and what we have seen is, as compared to a Facebook or a Google, the CPIs are always on the higher side for these DSPs. So generally, users companies like us tend to shy away because of this only reason, because the CPIs are 2x or 3x at times. Now, you mentioned that in your presentation, you also support us by supplementary features like helping us with creatives, strategy, etc., etc. So are we to understand that the CPIs will go even higher? I mean, the CPIs would be maybe 3x or 4x. I'm sure the LTV would match up to it, depending upon the games. But what about the CPIs? Because for an Indian market, if the LTV doesn't hit, there's no point in spending too much in terms of CPI. So your thoughts, please.
Yes, great question. By the way, what kind of games do you run?
Casual games.
Casual games,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think CPIs have been a an ongoing topic, in the different markets. And of course, I would definitely be the first to admit that DSPs have high CPIs in certain markets. But it's always a factor of multiple things. It's not just about the technology, right? So for example, the main things that affect the CPIs today, one is the cost at which you bid, two is the effectiveness of the creative, and then third is also the type of publishers we run on. So I would definitely have to look at why the CPIs are high. There is no, I guess, silver bullet for that matter. But I would say that our technology has improved dramatically over the last 2 years. We've applied a lot of improvements in order so that we don't overbid on a certain publisher. In fact, last year when we did a study, we realized that a lot of the bids that we're winning on today, we overpaid on them, and that resulted in CPIs becoming maybe higher than it should be. But with the new models that we are running today, we're able to actually see what is the second highest winning bid and then kind of calibrate our bids in order so that we are not able to pay more than we need to win a certain bid. And that has actually resulted in us lowering a lot of the CPIs. In fact, today we don't really hear a lot of customers tell us that our CPIs are extremely much higher than Facebook. In fact, sometimes Facebook is much higher than us. So I think it really depends on a multitude of factors. We really have to ask ourselves, what is causing the high CPI? Is it the bids are too high? Or is it that the creative performance isn't as good? Because if users are clicking and they're not converting, then that's going to result in high CPIs as well. So I think identifying the problem is the key. But then secondly also, you need to understand if the product is going to fit the DSP, because not all products are going to be suitable. There are going to be products that might not be at the right stage, like the previous person who asked the question, or they're in the market for too long, and the incremental user that we are driving is going to be much more expensive. So a lot of factors, we definitely need to deep dive to find out. Hope that answers your question.
Sure.
Okay, I think we're out of time. Thank you, everybody. And if you want to get some bags or notebooks from Liftoff, please come up to the front and interact with us. Thank you.